My name is Jade and her name is Dawn. On the 23rd of March 2010 she was born. She's got half a heart, yes you heard that right. You're looking at Supergirl fighting with all her might. So stick around and you will hear the amazing story about my girl right here.
Hey everybody and welcome back to Archie Adventures. If you are new here, my name is Jade-Marie and I'm the mother to almost 9-year-old Dawn-louise. So if you don't know already, February is Heart Month, which is a great opportunity to raise awareness for various heart defects and diseases. Our focus is going to be on hypo-plastic left heart syndrome, which is what my daughter has and has had her whole life and will have her whole life. So I feel like it's very important to try and open the conversation and get some understanding and awareness into the world, sharing our story. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about her diagnosis, and then over the next 29 days, there will be many videos expressing different areas of our journey, our worries and fears for the future, questions that you've asked us that we will answer for you, and some other little videos here and there as well. So if you have any questions, you can leave them down below and I'll get back to them in a future video. So this is only going to be a short video because my daughter is nearly 9, she's 9 next month. Which is a huge milestone for us and we're really excited. But it does mean that for me this was nearly 10 years ago now and my memory isn't that great of this day, but obviously with it being quite a big day in my life, I do still remember most of it. So I'm just going to tell you what I do remember and hope that you sort of get a gist of how it felt to be in that position. Now, if you didn't know already, I was a teen mum. I was told I could not have children and it was a very unexpected thing for me to fall pregnant so young. There is a video that I'll link up here that you can go and watch and just find out how all that happened. I'm not going to be going into it all again. But yeah, so I found out that I was pregnant and I went to a general doctor and it was very late in the evening and they thought that I was around 16 weeks. I had a feel in my belly and that was really shocking because I had only been told a couple of years beforehand that there'd be no chance of me conceiving my own child. Like I said, I'm not going to go into all that all over again, but that's the gist. So yeah, I was very surprised to even be pregnant and also very concerned because I was so young and it was obviously not something that was planned or that I was ready for. So they booked me in for an emergency ultrasound because they weren't 100% sure how far along I was and they knew that I was already quite far along. So the next morning I go to the hospital and I have the emergency scan and they tell me I'm actually 22 weeks and 3 days gestation, which was a huge shock. That is very far along. I can't even think now because I didn't experience a full pregnancy, but I'm pretty sure that's around halfway. So my pregnancy was extremely short. Yeah. So the technician is doing her checks and whatnot and she says, would you like to know the gender? And I said, yes please. And she said it's a girl, and I was a little bit happy because I kind of always imagined myself wanting a child that was a girl. I'm not really sure why. I think it comes from the fact that I wanted a sister growing up and that sort of like transferred into me wanting a daughter, but I hadn't really thought about having my own family because I'd already found out that I wouldn't be able to, so I'd sort of made plans on a different path in my life. So I was a little bit happy, but it was really hard to be happy about it because I was in a position where everybody was looking down on me, so it kind of felt guilty about having that sort of like happiness. I do now, looking back, wish that I could have embraced that happiness because that was going to be the only bit of happiness I had throughout this whole pregnancy, which is so incredibly sad, but unfortunately that is my truth and how it felt for me, because the next thing they said was nothing. She went completely silent and she was stood there for a good 10 minutes just moving the thing around in my belly and looking back at the screen, and she just says, excuse me, I'll be back in with another lady, and she has a look as well. And I obviously didn't know what to expect and hadn't been through this before, so I didn't know that this was not normal. So I just laid there and just waited for it to happen, and they both left. And then the first lady came back and she says, hi, can you come with me please? And she gives me some tissue and I clean up my belly, and then she leads me down the hall to another room and introduces me to a doctor, and I'll always remember his name because it is so ironic because his name was Dr. Jolly and he was about to give me the least jolly news. But yeah, so he sat me down and this room was much larger, and he took the lights out and it was almost pitch black. And he laid me on the bed and he put the gel back on my belly and he began another scan. And this time they didn't let me see the monitor. They kept it faced away from me, and it was a fair distance away from me as well. So even if I like peered around, I wouldn't have been able to see anything. He spends a fair bit of time staring at this screen, not really paying attention to me. Like occasionally he'd look at my belly as he was moving the little wand around, and that was it. And then he turns off the monitor and he pops the wand back in its holder and he holds my hand, and I just felt like something was really, really wrong. But before he said anything, I just figured it was going to be about my age, and I was prepared for that. I was not prepared for what was actually about to be said. And he holds my hand and he squeezed it quite tight, which was strange because I'd never met this guy before. But you could feel like it was a way of caring, and you could feel that he wasn't, in that moment, I didn't feel judged. I felt like he was sorry for me. And then he says, "I'm really, really sorry, but there is something wrong with your baby's heart. She is missing the left side of it." And I am so confused because I didn't know this was possible. I've only just found out I'm pregnant. I've just found out it's a girl, and now I found out that she's really ill. And I had never heard of hypo-plastic left heart syndrome before. I'd never heard of babies having half a heart, adults, children having half a heart. It's not something that's ever been brought up to me. I had no idea what a CHD was, no idea what HLHS was. I was immediately thrown into this world that I had no idea existed. And that has to be one of the hardest parts about this whole journey, is that I did not have a clue what I was getting myself into. So he goes on to explain, and this bit's kind of a blur because I'm sat there just like, what is going on? I'm so confused and so concerned, and just there are just so many emotions, and I'm really struggling to sort of hold them all in because I am the kind of person who doesn't want to let my guard down in front of everyone. So I do like really bottle things up quite a bit. And in my head, I'm just going over all these things that are being said, and I'm not understanding any of it. He's saying about surgeries, he's saying about compassionate care. I didn't know what that was. But then I think he sort of saw me struggling to process this information, and he says, basically, she's missing half of her heart and it is a fatal condition. You could lose her in the first week of life. You could choose to have a late termination. You could choose to let her pass away naturally after birth, or you could choose to give her 3 surgeries. These would give her at least a chance at living. But it is only about a 20% chance that she'll make it past the first week because her case is rather severe. And I later found out that the reason it was so severe is because she was missing the entire left side of her heart, whereas there are variations of this condition where they still have a little bit to work with. She had nothing. And yeah, that was pretty much how I found out about my daughter having half a heart, and it was awful. I remember leaving the hospital, and it just, as soon as I was out the doors, I started crying, not loudly, not in pain, just tears, and there was no way to process all the things that had just happened. I had no idea what I was supposed to do, especially with my age. Like, I should not at 16 be making the choice on whether someone else lives or not, and that was a very, very hard decision for me to make. But I could not go through with the termination that late. After that initial scan, I did find out that the termination I would have would mean me being induced, giving birth, and then her heart being stopped medically. And I just could not fathom doing that. It just seemed so evil, and that is my opinion alone. No judgment on anyone else and what they might do, but for me, I could not bring myself to do it. And compassionate care just felt like giving up. It did just feel like giving up, and I couldn't do that either. So I just decided, you know, it's happened now. I have a baby inside of me, and it's my job to protect her. And that's what I did. I opted to give her the surgeries. I felt like giving her a chance to fight this at least would be the best decision. And I will never know if that is the right decision, because at the end of the day, it's not my life that's directly affected by it. She's the one who has to live with it, and I do worry that that day I made the wrong decision, and when she's older, she might hate me for it. I don't know. I would like to think that right now she's enjoying a pretty good quality of life. There are things that she does really struggle with, but I do hope that looking back she's gonna think that I made the right decision too, and she's gonna be happy that I did, because I can't think of anything worse than my daughter hating me for something I did to try and, you know, do the right thing for her. Because as a parent, that is what you do with every single thought and every single action that you take. It is what is best for my child. And back then I really, really truly believed that the best chance was to give her the surgeries and hope that she pulled through, and thankfully she did, and she's living many more years than we thought back then. They did say I'd be very lucky if she made it past 1, and she is now nearly 9, which is why it's such an incredibly big thing for us. And I try to remember all the time, like, you are a miracle, you are so incredibly special, and I'm so lucky that you've made it this far, because honestly it is luck. The amount of babies that we've seen lose their fight in their first week of life or through their first surgery is heartbreaking, and I am very extremely lucky that my daughter did manage to pull through, and I will in future videos talk more about her surgeries. But yeah, this is pretty much it for the diagnosis story. It was a really, really hard day. I think it was up there with one of the worst days of my life, was finding out that she had half a heart, because it's such a massive decision that you are left with, and you will never know if you've made the right one, because it isn't just your decision. Once they are, you know, they're growing up and everything, it's their life, and that decision affects them forever. And I do hope that she won't hold it against me in future, but it is a real concern that she will, because her heart does dictate a lot of her life. I try to give her as normal as I can, but there are still things that we have to put limitations on, and I just really, really, really hope that I did make the right decision. I feel like I did. I feel like giving up wouldn't have worked for me. It's pretty much my diagnosis story. So I'm going to leave this video here for now, and in the future I'm going to obviously go into surgeries and day-to-day life and things like that. Unfortunately, obviously, where it's been so long and I didn't start YouTube or her online blog either, I didn't start those until she was older, so I don't have like a day-to-day sort of diary of what happened up to her birth and then from her birth onwards. So I can only really tell you what I do remember and what I do have logged on already. I do hope these videos will go to raise awareness and opens up people's minds to what other people are going through, because this is definitely a world that you don't know of until you're affected by it personally, and I think that that needs to change. I think the most important fact that you should know is that congenital heart defects affect 1 in every 100 babies. It is not that rare that a baby will be born with some form of heart defect. There are over 40 different types of CHD. But if you are a woman, I really feel like you should educate yourself on congenital heart defects, because there is a chance that a baby that you're going to be carrying down the line will have one, and it is much harder to process the information when you don't know what they're talking about and you don't have any idea that these things exist, and you don't know where to reach out for help and support and things. So yeah, I think it's really important that we finally start a discussion and actually start talking with the just general public. There are always chats amongst fellow CHD families, and I really feel like we need to branch out of that circle and get people out of the heart community involved in spreading awareness and funding and all these things. So I really do hope that our videos will do that. And yeah, I'm really sorry that this one's been kind of quiet as well. Unfortunately, if you watch our weekly vlog on Monday, you'll understand why I've had to film this so late, hence the whispering. But yeah, I hope that you are still able to listen and not be put to sleep by my voice. So we'll catch you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting CHD awareness, and we'll see you soon.